The backstory of Kuma was super touchy and pretty terrible, and we're here to talk about it, because Kuma totally deserves his whole video. But Kuma's backstory started when he was a little baby, when you can see that his dad and his mom had him as a baby. And you can also see that his dad was a buccaneer. A buccaneer is what they call somebody who has in his DNA, in his blood, human blood, but at the same time giant blood. And that's why in the One Piece world they are not literally normal looking, because they are way taller than the regular human beings in One Piece, you know. But that's where the story starts, you know. So Kuma is a baby born into a little kingdom in a church, and you discover that his dad is a priest in the church, and they are, as a family, living in a church, you know. And as soon as Kuma is born, his dad goes to the doctor and he's like, doctor, can you make sure, you know, he was afraid to say it, but the doctor already knew what he was about to say, and he's like, don't worry, I'm not gonna tell no one what I discovered, you know, in your DNA, so don't worry about it. So they all lived happily together for like a couple years. They all had a normal life in a way. Kuma was growing up in that country very peacefully, in the church, away from everybody's eyes, you know. But 4 years later, after Kuma was 4, the doctor shows up again to Kuma's dad, to the church, and he's like, Kuma, they just discovered your secret. The government came to the hospital and they saw everything, so they're coming for you now. So as soon as his dad knew about that, he saw the government people right behind him coming to get him. And from that scene, you can already see how terrible the decision was, because no one is supposed to be doing that kind of stuff, you know. Just because your DNA is a little bit different from anybody else, it should not be a reason for you to disappear, you know. And in that case, they literally made Kuma, his mom, and his dad slaves to the government and slaves to the celestial dragons, you know, the people on top of the world government that control everything. And after being made slaves, Kuma is actually, at 4 years old, was made be enslaved to a celestial dragon, kind of making him do all the chores that no one should do, you know. And at the same time, you can also see that Kuma's dad is also always getting beat up, and he always has bandages everywhere. It feels like he's always trying to resist, but he's always getting beat up by the end, or anything that he can do, he will get beat up at the end. So all of his family is literally a slave nowadays, up until the day where Kuma asks his dad, hey, do you know what happened to my mom? Do you know where she's at? And that's where one of the most heartbreaking news comes to Kuma, when his dad tells him that his mom just died. And she probably just died because of all the beatings that the celestial dragons were doing her, you know. Freaking terrible people. Terrible, terrible people. And right as he's telling that to Kuma, he's at the same time trying to cheer him up with the story of Nika, and how Nika will be the savior that will save him one day and come and save him one day. As he's telling him that, he's also doing that little Nika dance, you know. Do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do. And as he's doing that, one of the celestial dragons didn't like it, came with a freaking gun and pruff, shot him right in the face, right in front of Kuma, when he was literally what, 4 years old or something like that again? We don't forget about that. And for a little kid at his age, that is pretty terrible and shocking things to be looking at and seeing, you know. And after all of that tragicness, you know, he still has to be a slave for 5 more years. So from the age of 4 until the age of 9, he will get beat up, he will get threatened, he will get everything. Literally, he was a slave to the celestial dragons for all that time. And after all of that episode, the celestial dragons ain't done yet. You ain't done watching all of the terrifying things that they actually do to human beings. Because after that episode, they go to an island called God Valley, and you discover that in God Valley, the celestial dragons are trying to enslave all of the people on God Valley because that's not an island that's affiliated to the world government, so they feel like they can do whatever the heck they want to do in that country and grab all of their resources and stuff. But at the same time, they brought their own slaves that they want to participate in the not in the fight, because it's not a fight, massacre in a way, because it was completely a massacre. And basically in those games in God Valley, the celestial dragons and the God's Knights had to get a lot of points so that they can win the game, and if they win the game, they can have access to like a devil fruit power or something like that. Two of the devil fruit powers that we know of is the one that Kaido had, and the papa fruit, the one that ended up with Kuma, you know? And the papa fruit, I don't know if you know that much about One Piece, but the papa fruit is the one that will literally, as soon as he touches you, you will fly away for like 3 days, you know? Super, super interesting devil fruit power, all I can say. And in God Valley, you can see that Kuma was trying to get out of the prison, the jail where he was, and he started running. But as soon as the celestial dragons noticed that somebody was missing, they sent the other slaves to get Kuma. So you also get to see a pretty terrible scene of Kuma getting beat up pretty hard up until somebody very liked and loved by the One Piece community showed up. Ivankov! Emporio Ivankov! And she showed up with her friend slash little sister, Ginny. And we know Ginny. And right as they meet up, Ivankov is the one who motivates everybody to actually choose life and to choose a way to survive from this hell, you know, because that is truly called hell. I am sorry to tell you, when they are telling you that the devils are roaming this earth and making everything terrible, that's clearly what the celestial dragons are doing. I'm sorry to tell you. And the new plan at that point is for Ginny to actually call on all of the pirates that are nearby or something and give them an information. And that information is to let them know that there is a big, very big treasure on this island, and they better show up now, right now, if they want to get it. And so that's the bait that they got to actually make all of the pirates close by to come to God Valley and maybe help them get out, you know? And by doing that, guess who shows up? All the big ones. Goldie Roger, you have Rock the Trebek, you have Garp the Fist. Literally all the big ones showed up that day. And that day was a pretty terrible day for God Valley, because God Valley literally sunk that day. But before it sunk, we also see that Kuma was able to go for one of the treasures, and he got his devil fruit power, you know, the pawpaw fruit. But before that, they were fighting with Big Mom, and that's how you saw that she was able to grab on the dragon fruit that she gave to Kaido later on. Crazy how much details you can see in one episode, for example. But after Kuma got his power, boom, they literally jumped, and he made everybody jump into his own kingdom, because that's the only place he knew about, and that's where they went. So in his kingdom, back in his kingdom now, he's with Ginny and Ivankov. And Ivankov is gonna go somewhere else, because Ivankov is an adventurer, you know, wants to discover everything. But Ginny is going to be staying with Kuma, and they're going to be living ever after in the church, you know, just like his father and his mom did. So they're living in the church, and they're literally enjoying themselves, enjoying life, enjoying going outside and doing regular stuff and all of that, up until the point where Kuma gets bullied. But when he gets bullied, Ginny comes to save him and beats up the little kids. And after that, Kuma actually comes and uses his power on those kids to get those hurt feelings and whatever spot they were hurting. Well, he got that out of their bodies using his power, and they were saved. And that's how Kuma and Ginny became very liked in the community, you know? And up until like the end of that episode, and you see how they are just super happy to be alive and super happy to be where they are, because they're kind of grateful for the stuff they went through, the fact that they're still alive, that tells you a lot. But literally throughout the beginning of the backstory of Kuma, we already saw like a lot of terrible things, and a lot of more terrible things are still going to happen, because the backstory of Kuma is probably going to take like 6 more episodes to do, or like 6, 7, because in the manga, I remember it was a pretty long backstory, and basically the whole backstory is not going on just one event. No. It is pretty much telling you events from the beginning of Kuma's life until where we are today. So basically 45 years old or something like that. Basically, it's a big backstory to be told in like 10 episodes or so. So hopefully in the next episodes of One Piece, we're going to see a whole lot more stuff happening, just like we saw in the manga. And I'm going to be here to let you know on what happened. On that note, guys, let me know what you think about these episodes of the backstory of Kuma. Let me know down in the comments below. And don't forget, leave a like, share, subscribe to the channel like usual, and I will see you in the next one. Peace.